Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 28, a Talk of Fame podcast. I'm Kylie, and today we have on singer-songwriter Charles H.S. Thank you so much for coming on, Charles. It's such a pleasure to speak with you.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Really happy
Of
to be here.
course. Yeah, of course. So over the last year, we've been in isolation. What is something you did over the last year that you wouldn't have time to do before?
I got back into reading quite a lot. I spent a lot of time reading when I was younger, like really young, and then I kind of stopped because of school and stuff like that. But definitely over like the past year and a half, 2 years, I've really gotten back into it. So like all different kinds of books. So yeah, I don't know. It's really kind of just took me back, if that makes sense. So definitely reading, 100%.
Oh, for sure. Like, what have you been reading over the last like a year or two? What have you been reading?
A lot of old books, a lot of like, it sounds stupid, but they're all like Harry Potter ones and stuff like that. And I've got them on my shelf, so I'm looking at. I got the Hunger Games ones, like To Kill a Mockingbird, those sort of classic ones as well. You know, like the old ones that are good. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm into the old classics. I'm actually a bookaholic. I'm obsessed with books. Anytime,
Oh really?
like I'm obsessed. Like, is there any
What's your favorite book?
favorite book? I haven't read it in a while, but it has to be probably Full Circle by Andrea Barber. She's an actress, so like from like Full House, that kind of phrase type of thing. I'm just like, it's like that was her, I think, first book I read. Like that was her first ever book, and so like like read it, and I was like, I'm obsessed. It's about like her life, Full House, Full House, and it's her journey with anxiety and it's her life and everything. So if anyone hasn't checked it out, I totally recommend. But like I haven't read it in so long. But like these are my schedule, like, I'm obsessed with reading books. On my free time, I'm reading like reading books or something.
Yeah, it's really important to read, I think.
Yeah,
really
for sure. It's so important to read for sure. But as I kind of mentioned before, you are a singer-songwriter. What made you want to start doing that?
To be honest, it was really random. I kind of, I think I was 11, and I was with some friends and stuff in school, and they were musicians, and I never said I was interested, but I never said I was like, I'd do that. And it kind of just went from there, and I remember talking to them about like doing music and stuff like that. And eventually I kind of joined their band and we became like a four-piece. And it was a case of just practicing that every day, like having fun with it, nothing too serious or anything like that. Then I realized I really enjoyed it. And it kind of just went from there. And I've always had an interest in like making music and doing music in general. And it was only until I turned like 15, I even thought about, ever really like doing it myself. So yeah, those guys are the reason why I kind of started doing it. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be doing it. So yeah, it's all thanks to them basically.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, did you ever kind of picture yourself being like a singer-songwriter, or did you not kind of think like you would be a singer-songwriter?
I don't really know. I think that I probably had like a passion for it, but I wouldn't say I ever like knew that I wanted to do it. I don't think I ever really knew that it was something that I'd like to do. I always had a passion for it. I guess like when you kind of grow up and stuff, even from like, when you're really young, you have like things you love doing, and that could be like listening to music or like reading books or whatever. So, or like playing sports. Like I was back in this, like I'm still massive into sports, but I was always doing that when I was a kid. So like, I don't know, it just hit me really at a young age that I like doing it, and that it might be a thing, it might not. And even to this day, it's a passion of mine that I love doing because it's something that I can do to express myself, So yeah, it's just a fun thing to do, basically.
Oh, for sure. Like music is such a kind of like a big part of my life as years. Like the only thing that makes me happy and makes me me up when I'm like sad or depressed or whenever I'm down, I listen to music and it always get me pumping.
Yeah.
And so like music has always been a huge part of my life since I was, as long as I can remember, as a toddler. And as a kid, I'll always dance out to like Nick Jonas, like what else? Any other people. And so like music is like basically part of basically everyone's life, especially COVID. Like music has been like a huge part of people's lives.
Oh yeah.
Like even before COVID, like it's just been a huge part of everyone's lives for sure.
Totally, 100%, 100%.
So like when you are writing a song, do you focus on writing the lyrics first or the music?
That's a really interesting question because I feel like everyone's different. It's never a case of like, this is how you do it, because everyone changes mindset. And I think sometimes it'll be a case of you write a lyric in your like notes on your phone or something, or like out and about, and it will be a really strong like line of like a lyric in a sentence or whatever, and it kind of evolves from there. But sometimes you'll be on the guitar or the piano and you kind of get a chord progression and the lyrics just kind of flow afterwards. Usually for me it's a case of playing the guitar or the piano and then the lyrics come afterwards, but I never really write lyrics for the sake of writing lyrics. It's usually a meaning behind them. So if there's a guitar or a piano, I think about the lyrics and what I want to say and try and get what I want to say out through the guitar and then through the lyrics, obviously. So usually I'd say the instrument first, 100%. But everyone's different, obviously.
Yeah, so like do you have any like song that you wrote that meant the most to you, or like kind of was based off like a personal experience or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got three actually. So three that really stick out the most to me. Two are unreleased and then one that's been released. So the one that's been released is the most recent single, Stereotype. That was one that I kind of wrote with all of my like followers on like Instagram and stuff and TikTok and that sort of thing. And it was about like insecurity and stuff and things that everyone faces, but on a daily basis. So like genuinely real problems and things that we all go through. Second one would be Pillow Thoughts, which is basically just me and me being like really open and deep and stuff, which I never really be. So it's a bit of a step into a weird direction for me. And then thirdly is a song called Dandelion that I wrote recently that like no one's heard yet. So that's more of like a fun one for me, like a personal one. Just about a feeling that, you know, is a rare feeling that only a few people really get. It's just, yeah, it's hard to explain through words. I feel like you will know when you listen to it, but when it does get like, released, it will, people will like it, I hope so. Yeah, those are my three.
Oh, for sure. I actually listened to Stereotype when it first came out. Like, I was so good. I actually couldn't, like, I actually love, like, relate so much. And so, like, as with a Stereotype, like, what was kind of the process like for you to write that? Like, was it kind of easy to write or was it kind of difficult for you to write?
Oh, that was pretty difficult, to be honest. It was quite a long process. It was, I mean, when I think about looking back, I remember I was asking people about like how they felt about insecurities in themselves. Like when you ask someone to open up, that's not just like that experience. Like it takes a while to really kind of do it. So but it was a real process of trusting people and learning more about these, like my friends and stuff, Instagram followers, and really building that relationships. And through that, I kind of asked them and I said, look, can I take these things that you've said, can I make them into a song? And that's what I did. So it was definitely a longer process, but with that sort of song, it's never going to be about like how long it took to make or like how many streams it gets or how many like likes or listens. It's not about that. It's more about a collective thing, like a time capsule that I wrote in 2021 this year that will forever be something that's so much more meaningful than any like stats or numbers or figures. Do you know what I mean? It's a real emotional attachment. So yeah, it means a lot to me, that one, and it will always mean probably the most in that sense.
Oh, for sure. Insecurity is probably the biggest kind of part of people's lives, especially kind of in quarantine, since like last year when quarantine started. And insecurity is like a big part of my life, based on like how I look, who I am, my personality, and I always kept my insecurities a secret and like my identity, I'll say, a secret. My anxiety, depression, I always kept that a secret until my podcast started. I opened up about it because I never kind of felt comfortable coming out, be bullied and be made fun of for who I am and what my mental health thing was. And it's such like a tough place. And over the last year, a lot of people are facing insecurities and mental health stuff for sure. So I think a lot of people can relate to the song and everything about insecurities and everything. So I definitely recommend checking out the song.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? When someone goes through that, like you were saying, I've been through the same thing, like the exact same thing. Maybe not the same, but like definitely some real like similarities. you find those things that are kind of you got like release, aren't like, you know, and it could be through a podcast or through music or whatever. And it's really important that you kind of stick to that, because that can be like your grounding process. It could be like, you know, if for you, if you love talking about, I don't know, whatever, really, it could be anything. Talking about those things does help, and it hasn't got to be like, oh, I'm here for you, let's talk. It hasn't always got to be like that. It can be a case of just talking your mind, because sometimes that's the best thing you can do, you know. So you should be really proud of yourself that you're doing it, because, you know, it's not an easy thing to, you know, to come on here and like doing. It's really commendable. So, you know, fair play from me. That's a really good like thing you're doing. So definitely, like, you know, congratulate yourself on that. 100%.
Thank you so much. Like, same to you as well. You're talented, and I'm so glad you're doing this. Put yourself and put your thoughts into music. That's amazing. So, do you have these singer-songwriters in the industry that you look up to as a singer, or just in general? You look up to anyone?
Yeah, Chris Martin from Coldplay is someone I've always like adored, not in like a weird way, as in like a I love his music sort of thing. I definitely like kind of old Coldplay more than the newer ones. I still listen to new Coldplay, I think it's good, but like, you know, old kind of 2000s, 2000, like up to 2010 sort of Coldplay, the lyrics he was writing, when they were writing, they're insane. You know, they're so personal and like raw, and I don't know, they're just really good. So I've always listened to him as someone that's, I don't know, had a really good example of kind of having a release through music and writing what they want to say. So that's always been a goal of mine, to write a song as good as that. Maybe one day I will do. So yeah, definitely him, Chris Martin, 100%.
Oh, for sure. You're exactly like my mom. My mom loves Coldplay as well. So, like, do you have a favorite like Coldplay song?
Yeah, my favorite like song in general is Fix You by Coldplay. So it's like, I'd say Fix You, and then I think you know, Clocks by Coldplay. It was yeah, the Clocks, but yeah, I think it's off the Rush the Blood to the Head album, the white one. That is such a good song. I love that one. And obviously Scientist as well, the Scientist. So those three, but I think Fix You is by far my favorite one. It's just the guitar solo, and that's crazy. It's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. Those are my favorites too. Also, those are my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah. So, like, what is some advice for younger generations that would like to be like that would like to become a singer songwriter?
I don't know, I've never given advice on that before. Personally, I wouldn't say I'm ever in the position. Like, I wouldn't say I'd ever qualified to give it. I'm still the person learning to do it. But I'd say when you're writing, make sure that you're writing for a reason, and that what you want to say or whatever you maybe feel, try and get the way you feel out onto the paper and into your lyrics, because, you know, there's that. I think writing is such a great way to express how you feel. And like poetry, I know people that write poems. I know someone that writes amazing poems, and it's kind of her like main release. So it really inspired me to do that with my lyrics. So I thought, if these people, and, you know, this person's writing so well, maybe that I can do the same. So any advice I can give to anybody who wants to write in general is to make sure that you're writing from the heart, and leave it all on the page, and don't come away thinking, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. Like, you write how you want to write, but make sure you write it from here, like from yourself, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure. I totally agree with that. Like, what would you say, like, if you weren't a kind of like a singer-songwriter, what would you be?
I was in like a style, you mean?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Like in like as a career, maybe like an actor or like a producer or something like that. Do you see yourself in any position in the industry besides like songwriter?
I don't know. Acting's always been something that's kind of stood out to me, but I love doing the writing thing. I think as a writer, it could lead to so many career routes anyway. So like, I've never really sat down and be like, oh, I want to do this thing. Obviously, being like a performer or like a singer-songwriter anyway, you kind of naturally go down like the more artist route, like obviously. But I've always kind of wondered about acting or writing for like film and stuff. But I think my main focus right now is just to kind of focus on writing, just helping me to write and practice songwriting and writing poetry and stuff like that, and just kind of just learning about it, really. The more you do it, the better you get, obviously. But yeah, I'd say just kind of focus on the artist route and seeing how that goes. To be honest, nothing too serious.
Oh, for sure. So like, what would you say the process of making music changed when COVID hit? What would you say in your own opinion?
Well, I released my first song in May 2020. So it was during the pandemic in England. And I know that over here in the UK, we kind of got the lockdown quite bad. I think we had it for about 4 or 5 months in 2020. So we had a massive heat wave since like April to genuinely September. So it was so hot outside and I was stuck indoors just writing these lyrics basically. But I'd say that it really kind of showed me that when you have enough time and when you put your time into something, you can really just try anything, if that makes sense. Like I kind of taught myself how to do a production thing and like the music thing, and anyone can learn. If it's the case, if you've got the time and you want to do it, you can do. You know, I've got friends that have texted me saying, how do I like learn to do the basics of like production? And I'm thinking, well, the basics are on YouTube. But that's how I did it. So if you've got the time, try something new. That's what I did over lockdown. I really told myself, you know what, release a song. And I did. So, and it was really fun. So that's probably taught me the most. It's more, if you've got free time, then you use it wisely and you try and expand yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when COVID hit, like for the US, it hit between like it hurt like early March it hit like in the US. And so like it went from like March, like September lockdown. So I was stuck like 6 months. It was absolutely horrible. I hated being in lockdown. I think everyone did, like being stuck at home. And like it made like that's why the reason why I started my podcast is basically not doing anything in quarantine and got bored easily. I mean, so
exactly.
busy.
Exactly.
And so like I was like, oh, I do this, why not? And so like I mean a lot of things come out of it, like the pandemic, but like seriously, like the pandemic has been insane. Like most of the time, a lot like we got like learn new things and like came out with our passions. So that's what kind of like really came out of it for sure.
Yeah, totally. You know, that's the thing. Like, yeah, you got it. You know, when you got that free time, you went for it. So that's good. Made the most of it.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you as well. So the final question for the interview is, what is one artist that you have listened to on repeat and will never get tired of listening to?
That's such a hard question. Can I give two, or does that have to be one?
You can get two, as many as you want.
Okay, so Harry Styles is one. I love his music. I mean, to be fair, like most people would do, so like it's not a crazy answer.
Yeah. Totally.
But second one is Cody Simpson. It's more like kind of Australian surf rock, that sort of stuff. It's so good. I love his music. It's more like recent stuff. It's really good. It's quite indie, vibrant, sort of, you know. So definitely those two, 100%. Love them.
For sure. I've been obsessed with Harry Styles since I was a little kid, as long as you remember. Like, I've been a fan of Harry Styles since he was in 1D or when he became like solo.
I think when he was in 1D, when he was on X Factor, I used to like vote for him when I was like younger. So yeah, ever since then, like since 2010, I think I've been a Harry fan. So.
Oh wow, he like Harry's always been my favorite, like always. Like 1D, I used to be singing his lines every music he had.
Yeah.
He's my all-time favorite ever.
Yeah, he's so good. He's so good.
Seriously. So I just want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come on. I know it's kind of a little getting late there in the UK. And so
that's all good.
Been working out, trying to do this interview for a long time. I'm so glad we got to do it. And thanks so much for coming on. And we'll definitely speak soon for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Of course. Thanks so much.
Thank you.